Howdy folks, welcome to this episode of Trucking with Bones, a show that is generously informative, painfully honest, uniquely car hauling, and quite often boring. Alright, here we go. Hey guys, what's up? This is Bones coming to you from Studio 825, otherwise known as the Mothership. I'm sitting over there in the co-pilot seat is the next best thing. So, let's talk for just a minute about factoring. I get a lot of questions about whether factoring is necessary, whether it can be done, whether it's a good idea, do you need to, all those things. So, here's another opinion by Bones. In my opinion, no, it's not necessary, and it's a waste of money. And here's why I say that. As long as your goal is to make the most money possible per mile, and you're not looking at a load based upon how it pays, like is it a COD, or is it a quick pay, or is it a 30-day pay, or whatever, if that's not what matters to you, if your goal is strictly to make the most money per mile for every mile you drive, then somewhere between a third and a half of everything you haul will typically be COD. Sometimes it'll be more than that, but long-term average, like out over the span of a year, it'll typically come out to be around a third to a half of everything you haul COD. Now, COD can be nice, crisp 20s or 100s, even an occasional 50. It could be any number of other types of pay. You've got U-Ship, which will require you to have a U-Ship account and get a U-Ship code upon delivery, which you log in, enter the code, transfer the money, shake the customer's hand, thank them, and drive away. Simple, easy, your money's protected, it's all good. And then you've got things like Zelle and Cash Apps, PayPal, just whatever. There's also certified bank checks, cashier's checks, things like that that you can get. If it's a business, like a dealership, they will often pay you with a business check. I've never refused one, and I've only been stiffed one time in 6 years on one truck out of multiple on a dealership check. Dealership went bankrupt right after we made our delivery. So, not bad odds. I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you take a money order, make sure you get both copies. We've been over this in another video, but if this is your first time watching, I want to kind of touch on it a little bit because we're talking money, factoring. Is factoring necessary? If you do get a MoneyGram or a money order, just make sure you get both copies. Otherwise, they can go back and get their money back, and you have a rubber check in your hand. Not a good deal. I don't take a regular two-party check, like from an individual, unless they're paying when I pick it up, otherwise known as a COP, a charge on pickup. A lot of people think the C stands for cash, and it can be used alternatively for cash, but technically COD or COP means charge on pickup or charge on delivery. Because it could be a credit card, it could be a check, it could be cash, it could be whatever, but you're charging the customer when you make the delivery. So if it's a COP, a two-party check can work okay. Because if you deposit it straight into your mobile check depositing app on your phone, and you're going cross-country where you have several days to make sure that check's had time to clear before you deliver the vehicle, then it's not so much of a risk. If it's a next-day delivery or a same-day delivery, I wouldn't touch it. Now, I almost never do a same-day delivery because they just don't pay well enough for me to even be worth dropping the ramps on the ground. But I digress. Back to factoring. So it's been several years since I looked into factoring, so I don't remember the exact numbers, exactly how it all works, but the company that we found that at that point we felt would work the best really just didn't work at all. Now, they may have changed. Maybe we didn't find every factoring company out there. But what we were looking at doing was we had one owner-operator that he was just cash strapped, and he really wanted his cash faster than he was getting it. So he kept begging us and begging us to look into factoring, which we finally did. But the problem was, we found that you can't, at least at that point, you can't factor only specific loads. So we couldn't just factor, let's call him driver A. We could not just factor driver A's loads, because when you sign their contract and you send in an invoice, let's just say you send in an invoice for Reindeer. Everybody's been out for a little while, knows Reindeer. They're a good, solid, reputable company. They handle a lot of corporate moves, higher end stuff. I don't mean like supercars. I just mean more white collars type loads. So when you send a completed bill of lading to your factoring company, at least the one we were looking at, all of the ones we looked at, they turn around and send a small contract to Reindeer stating that they are now your factoring company. So every time after that, you send in a bill of lading, the money no longer comes to you. It goes to the factoring company. So they did say, well, you don't have to factor everything. You can mark on your bill of lading factor or not factor, and it's still going to come to us, and we'll collect it all for a week, and then we'll send it in. Well, that doesn't help a lot. That's not helpful at all. So, because it can actually delay the money that you're receiving on the ones you don't need to factor. And on the ones they do factor, they charge you a percentage on that. So, just unless you've got a major cash problem, in the long run, factoring is not really an advantage. And again, because such a large majority of everything that you receive is COD, you have a constant steady cash flow to cover your expenses, while the rest of it's being deposited directly into your bank account or coming to you in the form of a check. So again, in my opinion, I don't see factoring as being a legitimate need in the car hauling industry. If you're into freight, where I hear it's 90 days at times before you get paid, well then yeah, I get that. That definitely makes sense. But car hauling, not so much. Now, if you get set up with a specific broker and you're doing 80% of your work through that broker and they're all 30 days out, well, then maybe that would make sense to factor that. But then I would bring up the question, unless you're one of those little guys with a toy truck that just wants to be home every night and you're just running some local stuff, why are you just working for the one broker when you could be gravy picking off the local one? I'm not criticizing, I just don't know. I'm asking the question because I've looked at those types of things, and the only time I've ever found something that actually makes sense long term is if you don't have your own authority and you want to lease on under a specific broker that also does transports like United Road or some of the other larger ones out there that you haul solely for them, and then they're going to cut you a regular steady paycheck anyway. So, you know, but again, if you could work out some sort of a deal with a regular broker that moves a lot of freight on the lane that you like to run, or if you like a specific lane rather than following the money, then if that broker is a slow paying broker, maybe factoring will work for you. But by and large, for the guys that are out here just strictly to make the most money possible per mile, they're willing to follow the money and haul what pays, factoring is not necessary. So hope that helps. Y'all keep the greasy side down and keep between the lines. For those of you that hung on until the end, thank you for supporting this YouTube channel that shows life on the road as a car hauler and makes an attempt at providing honest and up-to-date information about how to succeed in the car hauling industry. We appreciate every one of you that subscribes and shares and likes these videos. A big thank you from Doggo.
Life is short. Live it well. Surround yourself with important people. Choose your saddle partners carefully because they may turn on you without warning. Set a good example for tomorrow's saddle partners. Make sure you can look yourself in the mirror. The best view of the world is between the ears of a good horse. Never fail to look for the beauty in the world around you. Live your life in a way that inspires your children to go farther and be more. No regrets.